Hello and welcome to ThePapare.com, where we are on the DFCC Know and Grow segment, where we'd like to talk to gentlemen who have been there and done that in the field of rugby, who've represented their schools, represented the country as well. And our very special guest today is Mr. Hiran Muttiah, former captain of Royal College as well as a Sri Lanka rugby player, and who's done a lot more in between as well. Hiran, great to have you on the DFCC Know and Grow.
Happy to be here.
It's wonderful to have you back in the country after a fairly long absence, Hiran, but let's start at the beginning. Royal College, you captained them in 1982. Fond memories of the Bradby?
Unfortunately, we lost that year, Shan, but absolutely good memories nonetheless, and good experiential learning. So we lost the first leg 9-6. Byron Fernando, known as Lord Byron at that time, and still Lord, I believe, in Trinity circles, killed us off on a drop goal, 9-6. We went to Kandy with the opportunity of being the first Royal team to win the Bradby back by losing the first leg. But sadly, again, we got done at the post, 6-4. We scored the only try, but just could not make it on the day. But good memories.
Yeah, it is fantastic memories. And when you look back and you look at the game now, do you see any differences in that kind of rivalry?
Yes and no, but I don't want to sound too pessimistic. But I'll give you an example. In the 80s, when we were playing, quite often the captain and senior players would greet the visitors from Kandy. It was Vidyartha, Dharmaraja, Trinity College. So when the team bus arrived, you had the captain and some of the senior players welcoming them, taking them to the hostel, making sure they're rested, and then we get onto the field and get going. Today, I think the schools stay in hotels. So that opportunity for building camaraderie, which goes beyond the school, is sadly missed. But I think in terms of passion, representing the school, it's much more hyped up now for sure. But certainly I would not say it's too much different to our days.
Yeah, it's good to see that some things are continuing, but as Hiran was saying, there are a few things we can learn, and that's what this Know and Grow segment is all about. So you went from Royal College straight to play for Kandy, which was unusual for a Royalist to play for Kandy.
For sure, and that's another good point. Byron and I, 1 week in Kandy, the previous week we were at each other's throats, so to speak, fiercely competitive on the field. And the week later, Dr. C.D. Fernando, our first Bradby Shield captain of Royal, doctor in Kandy, through Byron, he contacted me and said, why don't you come and play up in Kandy? And I looked at the playing stocks at SIA, which is quite strong in the centres, and I thought, Kandy, why not go do something there? And I did. So 1 week or earlier week, we had each other, and the next week we were on the same team. And subsequently, we played CRNFC in the quarterfinals that year, and all the schoolboys scored the points. That was Ashant Ratwata, Byron Fernando, myself, and Tusita Seniviratna, the late, sadly passed away in a plane crash. Yeah. But that was the camaraderie, or you play the game in good spirit, but then you continue after that out of school.
Yeah, it was wonderful stuff. Then you came down to CRNFC itself, but in between you played for Upcountry versus Low Country. How much has that lack of that rivalry, of those planting rivalries, taken away from the game, Hiran?
Very much so. I think even at that stage in the 80s, it was very sad to see the Upcountry teams, so far away from the standard of the Colombo teams. And I have very fond memories when my uncle, the late Hiran Muttiah, as a planter, and we have been up there, and Dimbul, the Dikoya, the Merrymen of Uva. These are some wonderful teams that played super rugby. So sadly, with the planters moving on, rugby standards also dropped. And I think it's a shame, because we can't seem to build that provincial team strength beyond Colombo and Kandy.
So you probably spanned that era where rugby was very much a family sport, it was a cultural kind of thing, into the era where it got a little bit maybe centered towards the schools and maybe the clubs. Can you tell us a bit about that, Hiran? What was it like growing up, and what's it like for a kid growing up now?
Sure. Well, for me, from the age of about 6 or 7, we've been following CRNFC, and it was very much Uncle Tyrrell had played there, and the family was very much into CRNFC. So I could not imagine playing for another club other than CRNFC. Playing for Kandy was close to my heart because it was Upcountry, so I could make that compromise, if you like to call it that, because it's Upcountry. But very much so at that time, very closely aligned with family-oriented clubs. So whether it be the Havies, whether it be the CR, each was quite unique. And today it's more business-like, if you want to put it that way. Members are there for entertainment, but playing stock is very much a business. You could be in CRNFC this season and Kandy next season, or vice versa. But in the old days, you probably didn't get a lot.
And you've been involved in the rugby administration in the clubs as well since your return. What are the experiences you bring back from being in Australia, being in the Middle East? What are the rugby experiences that you think you can impart onto not just the CR but all the other clubs?
Yeah, I think you would like to think you're bringing back some level of professionalism. We've seen the sport as it's played in the Western world, Australia particularly, the structures outside the game itself, the support mechanism, the player welfare, all those things I think all go well, and not me personally bring it here, but we can share some of those of what we've seen that is good in overseas, and we can replicate it here. Having said that, Sri Lanka rugby I think is getting it right. Once again, we're going to the grassroots level. There's a lot of work that's both Priyantha Ekanaka is doing as the new CEO and Asanga Seniviratna. So a lot of work still to come, but we can't seem to get that momentum on a continuum. So we do a 3 or 4 years good work, and then it falls away, and then we rebuild again. So I think today we're at a good stage. There's a lot more thought process about bringing that professionalism, the structures, the frameworks that can sustain a good level of game beyond just the 3-4 years.
You spoke of Asanga and Priyantha, of course, guys in your generation who are now running the game, people you would have played with and against. And what was the memory of playing for Sri Lanka like back then, Hiran? Was it something that everyone looked forward to playing for schools?
Oh yes, definitely school, and Sri Lanka was certainly for me, it was almost a mission for me in life to play for Sri Lanka, and the day I was able to do that was something very special. I could not even explain it now, but certainly was something very special. And my first tour was to Japan, and if you took all the Asian countries at that time in the Asiad, Japan was probably the pinnacle to get to play, and it was a wonderful tournament. We did reasonably well, but certainly today Sri Lanka standards is much higher. The explosive power at the breakdown, the tackle point. So the game has really moved on, and I think exposure even playing in New Zealand, as did Priyantha did, those are things that we never could have imagined. So certainly they have brought a lot of that professional, the international standards between Asanga and Priyantha. They have certainly been able to bring that.
Just about 30 years ago that you represented Sri Lanka and playing Japan in the Asian. Now Japan has actually come to beating a tier 1 country in the World Cup. They're hosting their World Cup. Where is Sri Lanka rugby in the last 30 years? Hiran, has it gone backwards, forwards, or stayed stagnant?
It has been inconsistent, that's for sure. And as I said, we simply don't be able to bring to the table a consistent framework to take it forward. So inconsistency is probably that stands out. I would not be unkind and say that the standard has dropped. I think it's up to the administrators also to maintain the standards. Certainly the playing stocks, is of a good standard. We've done very well overseas, in the N5 level we're doing quite well. Do we have the physical attributes to take it to the next level? Japan beat South Africa in the World Cup, that's true, but there were quite a few non-Japanese born players. I think we need to consider that aspect, whether it really fits for what Sri Lanka wants for its rugby, I'm not sure. But if you're going to compete at that level, you really have to have the physical attributes. Our players are much bigger than 20, 30 years ago, that's for sure, but it keeps evolving, so we need to keep up. In that sense, I think there's some decisions to be made in terms of attracting foreign talent to come here and take up residency. It's become 5 years now. So it will be a tall order to bring some expatriates here to play rugby only for 5+ years to get residency. So whether they'll hang around for 5 years to seek out a possibility of playing for Sri Lanka is something we'll have to wait and see. But certainly I'd agree with you that we need to do much more to really compete at that international level.
Well, you've renewed your residency here after being away for a long time with your professional commitments. Enjoying your return to Sri Lanka?
Absolutely. Its heart is Sri Lankan, and if I can respectfully quote one of our most revered foreign ministers, the late Kadir Gama, where he said the cake was definitely baked at home and the icing was put on overseas, I think, words to that effect. So I left as a 21-year-old, Shan, so heart is very much here. But that's not to say that Australia has not done well for me also. I think you have to take the good with everything, and certainly both countries have done well for me. I hope I've also been able to give something back in return.
Well, we are looking forward to you contributing to the sphere of rugby here on your return. Hiran, thanks very much for joining us on DFCC's Know and Grow.
It's been a pleasure.
Cheers.
Thank you, Sean.